Teresa.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to CANTO Conversations. My name is Teresa Wankin, and I'm your moderator this morning. Disruptive technologies are at the center of business transformation in every industry. While telcos were transforming our businesses and operating models to prepare for over-the-top players, the hotel and transportation industries were modernizing to play with Airbnb, Uber, and Lyft. Today on our chat, we take a look at disruptive technologies in the financial sector, and more importantly, how fintech is transforming the way money is managed, from banking and payments to wealth management and cashless transactions. We refer to COVID-19 as the digitalization accelerator simply because it has inspired governments and businesses to accelerate their innovation agenda. And one of the bubbles of innovation we are very, very excited about today is the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank Digital Cash Pilot Project, which will be conducted in 4 countries, Antigua and Barbuda, Grenada, St. Kitts and Nevis, and of course, St. Lucia. On the chat this morning, we have Ms. Sybil Welsh, Senior Project Manager at Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. Sybil will sensitize us on the pilot project and also give us some perspective on the future of digital currencies in the region. Please remember to post your questions in the chat and mute your microphones. Sybil, welcome to CANTO Conversations. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Teresa, for that warm welcome. It's really a pleasure for us to be here, engaging your membership and others on this transformative project that the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank is advancing on behalf of the people of the region.
Okay, so Sybil, let's start by asking you the first question, the first basic question that we've asked everyone coming on the show. How has COVID-19 affected the central bank?
Well, COVID-19, as has been the case for everyone globally, has been a sort of shock, a wake-up call. But from our perspective, what it has done really is to advance a lot of the issues and the agenda, or provide a more fertile ground for us to discuss issues relating to retooling, rethinking, and transforming the region. From an internal perspective, what we have had to do is telecommute. And I think it was not as difficult for us because we are 8-member central bank. So we have the mechanisms in place to already engage remotely. We have 8-member countries, Anguilla in the north down to Grenada in the south, and in between we have Antigua and Barbuda, the Commonwealth of Dominica, Grenada, Montserrat, and what we call the 3 Saints, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I'm having a brain freeze right now. So we've really had that mechanisms to deal with what we have always been dealing with in terms of having an extended infrastructure to address our operations. We started COVID-19 in terms of looking at the what do we need to do, and so the governor called a meeting on, I think it was the Wednesday. By the Thursday, we did a test drive of the operational departments. By Friday, the entire bank did a test drive to telecommute. And by the next week, Friday, we were all telecommuting. We did not lose a single day of work because we are a critical institution. We are banker to banks and banker to member governments. And so in order for persons, the engines of the economy to continue moving from the financial perspective, we have to be open. And so we have never lost a day of work. In fact, we laugh and say we work harder now, we're telecommuting, than when we were at the office. Because now, as persons have been reporting, you're working all hours. There's no longer a defined cutoff point when you leave the office. the office is home, and so you're back and forth from your desk, your table, wherever that is,
Yeah.
and doing work.
Yes, longer hours, no traffic, no commute time, so that is just pumped into the work time. So Sybil has a short presentation to share with us, and then we'll go directly into the project, which we are all anxious to hear about. So do you want to share your screen now, Sybil, and give us that short presentation?
And let me just make a correction. It's 3 things, not 4. I guess COVID-19 has really muddled my brain somewhat. Let me share my presentation.
Not a problem at all.
So let me look for the presentation. Sorry, let me just get back to you. Let me just pull up my screen and make sure that it's being recorded. I think I have to reconnect. I think I was locked up. Give me a chance just to reconnect to my work, because I was on the Zoom chat. It sort of disconnected me. So let me just reconnect. Give me 1 minute. We can talk while I am reconnected to my work, my servers. So let me just sign back in.
Sure. In the meantime, while you reconnect, while you bring up your screen, I would just ask participants to please post your question on the chat feature. After the presentation, I have a few questions of my own, and then we'll take your questions. So please, you can start posting your questions from now.
And also, as a central bank, we have been doing a lot of initiatives, both in terms of supporting our member governments through collaboration and some quantifiable support systems outside of just being a fiscal advisor and banker. We have, as a central bank, provided tangible support in the form of grants to member governments, the $4 million grant. We've also reduced our discount rate, the rate at which we lend to our institutions, our member governments, and our commercial banks, from 6.5% to 2%. So we have been doing both advocacy as well as tangible interventions to ensure that our constituents, our stakeholders, which at the end of the day, the ultimate beneficiary is our member government, is the residents. We have been doing a lot to ensure the level of stability required for the economy.
Okay, great. That's interesting to know. COVID has highlighted several things, one of which is collaboration is key for countries and this region to move forward. So it's good to know that in the Eastern Caribbean, the central bank is doing so much for the governments.
Yeah, so let me see.
Ready now?
Let's just, I was entering wrong password. If you are multitasking and talking, and so now I've gotten in, let me just get to my, okay, I can share my screen now. Share.
Okay.
Okay, and let me just do this thing. Okay, so thank you once more, and sorry for the little disruption.
It's okay, it happens.
Okay, so I want us to talk about, as we started talking about the issue of how to respond in a crisis, I want us to think about a crisis not just as, oh, woe me, because as a central bank, we haven't thought of the crisis as that. We've seen a crisis as an opportunity. And that is how we have looked at it in terms of what are the opportunities that we can think about when responding to COVID-19. How do we succeed? Not just survive in an ever-changing world. And in the region, we are accustomed to crises in terms of hurricanes. We may have certain SARS and certain bird flu or certain issues where we have been negatively listed, but these tend to be temporal, and so we know that there is an end game. The issue of COVID-19 is that we do not know when this will end, and that is the issue of the uncertainty, the complexity, and the ambiguity that is characterized by this new ecosystem in which we are expected to move ahead. And the whole idea of this is that we have to succeed by not only adapting, but we have to rethink and reshape our future. The issue of our future is in our own hands. It's so apropos at this time, because really we have to be able to forge ahead with new ways of seeing the world and new ways of positioning ourselves for success. In our 2017-2021 strategic plan, the Governor Antoine, he challenged us as an institution as well as the region to imagine what could be and should be, in terms of we're not just striving, but we're thriving. And it is this vision of what we should be is at the heart of the tools that we need to leverage. And part of that is leveraging imagination, not just knowledge. You know, Einstein put it nicely in a quote. He said, imagination is more important than knowledge, because knowledge is limited to all that we know and understand, while imagination embraces all that we can know and can understand in the entire world. And so it's that imagination that we need to tap into in terms of what can be, what should be as we forge ahead. And so it's this issue of moving through the crisis, not seeing it as, well, we're gonna just try to survive and stay for a while and then waiting for things to go back to normal. I think we have to recognize that the norm that we are in is one of constant change, uncertainty, ambiguity. And so therefore we have to look at what is the vision, the mission, the goals that would allow us to chart the way forward successfully, even within this environment of uncertainty. And initiatives have to provide a clear pathway to an uncertain future. How do we navigate? How do we succeed? And transformation is what the central bank has been championing for the last 4 or 5 years, and even before that. But the transformation has to come out with new business models, new ways of doing business, new thinking. They have to be long-lasting, not episodic. And so as a central bank, we have asked ourselves, what can we touch in terms of the levers of development to bring about that change, that transformation? Part of what we can look at is what we have oversight for. And that relates to our payment system, that relates to our currency, and that relates to really what we are governing in terms of monetary policy, in terms of financial stability, in terms of a part of what we have to do as enshrined in our articles, Article 4.4, is to actively pursue economic development consistent with our stability and our monetary and financial stability objectives. So when we think about payment systems, it's really about the efficiency. It's about promoting innovation. It's about advancing business development. It's about increasing productivity. Because in order to have financial stability, you need to have real sector productivity, real sector success. The two have to go together. In looking, therefore, what we have recognized is that when we look at the cost to do business, it is a drag on our economic potential. And so what we are advancing as we pursue the digital transformation, of which our digital, our EC Digital Cash project is one of that step, one of the steps towards payment system modernization and the economic transformation of the region, is to recognize if we don't address the frictions, the inefficiencies, the cost of doing business, then we will not achieve the productivity targets we need to drive our growth trajectory, and in so doing, ensure stability. So you recognize, imagine if you have to cash a check. and you can pay anywhere up to $11.50. If you have to make a transfers within the same bank, you may have to pay $17.55. And if you have to talking about regional integration, because we are one block, it is still prohibitive for us to do business with each other because we are paying significant fees. And so we are talking about new business models that address our payment system that allows it to have the employment generation, the new business creation, the financial sector. It's the wheels of the economy. When you think of the issue of the circulation of blood, one recognizes that in order for your body to work effectively, you can't have anything that prevents that blood circulation to flow freely. Any obstruction can create the demise of the body. In the same way, when you think of the financial sector and the payment system, one has to be able to ensure that money is moving quickly, efficiently, and cost effectively, and everyone has access to the instruments and the tools to be able to advance their own economic growth agenda. And so at the base of it, the strategic priorities for the ECCU payment system contemplates digital transformation. It concentrates, it focuses on a relook of our regulatory framework, a relook of our engagement framework, a relook of our currency framework. And that is what this is about. At the level of the financial institutions, they stand to benefit. They stand to benefit from having access to tools that they can leverage to create new business models. While we talk about whither goes the banking sector in an economy that's moving digital, how do we retool banking so that it is agile, so that it has the data analytics that it needs to really be able to spin on a top, as opposed to be bogged down with analog systems or systems that are not as efficient. And so the issue is not to get rid of the banking sector, but to have that growth of the banking sector where more and more you see the marriage between financial technologies and our brick and mortar banks to create a more competitive, resilient financial sector. And that is what the transformation is about. It's about innovation at the basis to drive access, to drive growth, to drive competitiveness, and to drive the ease of doing business. We have set as a target to have 50%, to be in the top 50% of the World Bank's ease of doing business indicators. And where are we? We can say that we have St. Lucia, which is about 93. We have Antigua, which is 113. We have St. Kitts and Nevis, which is 139. We have Grenada, which is 146. We have Dominica, which is 111. And when we look at, we have Jamaica in the wider CARICOM at 71. We have Trinidad and Tobago at 105. When we look at Mexico at 60. We look at Puerto Rico at 65. We need to get there and beyond, because the smaller that number, it means the less difficulty one encounters in doing business. And that is what this is about. We need to move from 146 right up to 50. And that's not going to come by us doing business as usual. It has to be by us doing business digital. And so what is our future picture looking like as we look? Because in the book, Flawless Execution, the author speaks about you have to have a picture of the future to direct your path. And so what we're looking at is to reduce cash by 50% over a 5-year trajectory once we mass introduce a digital currency, the EC currency go on digital. And the reason is cash is expensive to move and there are too many cost prohibitions. Plus you can't really integrate the region if you have to take cash via plane or a boat. Checks are expensive to reconcile. In some countries, across in more international countries, they have gotten rid of checks. And cards are costly for many of our population. They don't have the wherewithal to get a credit card, and there's a cost. We're looking at what can we do to ensure that we have a payment instrument that is accessible and that provides the framework for more agility. So quickly, in my last 5 slides, what do I want to say? We want to have, in our design, the EC currency will go in the same way that we do our physical currency, in that we are the issuer and financial institutions are the distributors. But those financial institutions will be widened beyond just our commercial banks. And they will make it available to our consumers via a tool that most of us have in our hands, our smart device, our smartphone. And in that way, we then facilitate a very seamless way to make safer, cheaper, faster payments. You download the app like you would download any app from the App Store, be it Android or iOS, the Apple, and you register either with a financial institution or a non-financial institution that we consider an agency to address the unbanked or those who do not want to have an account with the traditional financial institutions. You convert your funds, whether electronically or physically, to digital EC, and then you just scan, pay, confirm payment, and you're on your way. You can transfer money, and in terms of security, it is a private permissioned blockchain network where all parties are known, so there are no anonymous users, that there's a network operator that validates all transactions, and it's encrypted from end to end of the data and at rest. So basically, the question therefore is, how do we succeed in an ever-changing world characterized by volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity? And the answer is, we succeed by responding with vision, understanding, clarity, and agility. And that's where I would close and engage you, Teresa, as well as the other persons who are participating in this discussion on what we're doing as a central bank in our digital transformation trajectory to benefit the region, so that we're not only surviving, but we are thriving. And that's what we see as our vision.
Excellent, and this is certainly an eye-opener for me. It is very interesting, and I'm very excited to learn more about this project. So we'll go straight into the chat, the Zoom chat, and then I have some questions that I would like you to answer. But let's take some questions from the group chat. So how ready are commercial or central banks in the Caribbean to implement this system? So I know you talked about the Eastern Caribbean banks. Can you give us a little bit of perspective on the other banks in the region?
Well, what we know from a regional perspective is that the Bahamas, the Central Bank of the Bahamas, they have already piloted, they're in their 6-month pilot of their digital version of their currency. And so we have been engaging them to find out how they are. They have a white paper they have published. They have a few videos on YouTube, but so far they have been able to advance that. And our objectives are similar: transformation, inclusion, competitiveness, growth. Those are part of their objectives as well. From a central bank EC perspective, we have been working for the last 13 months with financial institutions, be they commercial banks, credit unions, non-bank financial institutions, and the fintech industry as well. We do not have in the region many fintech industries who are into digital platforms for transactions. We know of about 4, and we have been engaging institutions as well. This is a pilot, and so at the level of the pilot, we are sort of in a bounded environment to test in a limited environment. Once we move beyond the pilot, then we move to embracing even more companies, fintech companies, because our goal is to build an ecosystem to drive the success of a digital economy.
Excellent. What type of legislation you all had to pass, or what type of amendments you all had to make to implement this system in the countries of the pilot?
Well, the issuance of a digital EC cash version of our EC currency is enshrined in really our articles, our ECCB Agreement Act. And so that act basically gives the central bank the authority to issue notes and coins, whether it be in physical form or any other form agreed to by at the level of the board and at the level of the Monetary Council. Out of just an abundance of caution, we have gone ahead and made amendment to specifically indicate digital, since even though it says any other form, it did not specify what that form is. So we have gone ahead and do that. We have not made any additional legislative changes. What we are hoping is that the pilot will provide the necessary market intelligentsia to inform that. At the level of our payment system modernization, however, we have been looking at what regulations are required, what other issues are required to have our payment system be more embracive and expanded to other institutions, for example, to be participants of the ACH, the Automated Clearinghouse. So those are some of the discussions, and that is some of the background work currently being undertaken.
Okay, great. So I want to bring up traditional banks, commercial banks. What has the relationship been, and what has the public awareness been for traditional banks and commercial banks to come onto the system? How has the collaboration been going?
Well, we see this as a partnership, and so we have been working from a development standpoint, lock and step in with our financial institutions, because if we are the issuer and our financial institutions are the distributor, but they're also providing the intermediary support. What we have done is a multi-tier infrastructure where the central bank issues and the financial institution, what they do, they not only distribute, but they also provide intermediary support as they would do for any other service that they would provide to their customers. So if the customer is having a problem, they onboard the customers to the platform. So they already have their KYC, AML checks, their KYC checks, and so they just validate. For those who are not with a commercial bank or credit union and they go to an agent, the agent will then do that KYC. We have a tiered approach. So if you just want a basic access for a limited amount, then you provide one form of ID and a government issued ID, and you then be able to access a certain quantum. We have set that at this point in time to $1,000 a month. If you provide more, that allows for more due diligence, more validation, a second piece of ID, then you allowed an increased amount at the value-based level. If you are registered based, which means you're aligning your wallet to your financial institution, then the profile that you have with your financial institution will dictate the volume and the value of your access to the digital currency within the upper limits prescribed at the central bank level.
Okay, great. So Sybil, can you tell us what you see? Do you see commercial banks changing their business model and shifting to fintechs and the likes?
I see it as a happy marriage. I think that banks have evolved. You know, there was a time when banks were total brick and mortar, and then they ventured into ATM, and then they realized, wait, we have these long traffic in the banks, people in long lines. You know, it's causing a little ruckus sometimes, and they try to move persons to internet banking. And then you see more and more persons are realizing, listen, that tool in person's hands, they need to be able to just be on the road and do banking. They don't need to necessarily get to a computer. And so you now have the mobile banking. And so it's we see there's an evolution. The issue is the speed. And I think COVID-19, you know, it's always, don't let a crisis go to waste.
Yes.
COVID-19 has been, I think, a watershed moment for all of us, because when we thought we had time to do this, then it's now, time is now. There's never a better moment than now. And that is where we are at in terms of this response. So you find that institutions are saying, oh, we wish we had a digital currency right now, because consider the long lines to getting to pay your bills, consider the long lines, and persons don't want to have to deal with a lot of cash and a lot of change. Persons are trying to go, as you've started out, in terms of a contactless environment. And if you could just scan and go, scan and pay, confirm and go, then you limit your contact with other persons, and therefore that fear of contacting or contracting anything is minimized. And so this is where we recognize, but beyond just the health issues, it's really the issue of competitiveness. How quickly can we, the churches now are thinking, really, I can do online church, but I don't have a way to get persons to pay tithe. But if they have a digital wallet and I have a digital wallet, then it becomes easier. And so there are new businesses, our young people growing up and thinking, I need to start a business, but I can't afford a credit card infrastructure. And I want to apply my services, not just to persons from sea to shore, but beyond my shores, because I'm now a global citizen. But how do I get paid when, so it's all of these issues. How do I get paid from somebody in Dominica? Because the EC currency is legal tender in all 8 countries, but then I don't have a card infrastructure to get paid from somebody in Dominica, somebody in Grenada. But with the digital platform, wallet to wallet, peer-to-peer transfer, this can happen seamlessly. And so the job opportunities can unfold. It's all of these issues that we see as what can be, what should be. That is the possibilities frontier that we are seeing needs to happen now.
So what type of investment? Can you give us a little bit about the investment for the digital currency? We know investing in anything digital is pretty high. How is the region going to cross that challenge?
The good thing is the central bank, as the forebearer, the flag bearer in this, has taken on the cost for this. So we have taken on the cost of the developmental costs and any infrastructure for the network that is required. All persons now at the financial end or the user end or the merchant's end would be really a smart device. A smart device, and then we get going. We're also collaborating with our telecoms to ensure that for the pilot that there is no data cost to persons to transact over the internet, so that the cost during the pilot is 0 rated. It takes up a very little data, but we also want to make sure that we assess what is possible to create a digital economy. And so we are in collaborations with our service providers. And to date, they have given the green light that they will be a partner in this.
Excellent. Collaboration is key again. So Sybil, can you tell us what type of education initiatives are being done to get the consumer ready? And I want to add a little bit to Richard's question, especially the unbanked. If you can talk a little bit about access, and especially in rural communities, because banking for rural communities remain there's a big gap.
Yes, we in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, and we're still trying to get numbers. We on the unbanked, because we have a highly, what should I say, there are lots, the problem that we see mainly is underbanked as opposed to unbanked. Many of our credit unions have a significant amount of membership from the informal sector. And in a lot of cases, the membership exceeds, the collective membership exceeds the population. However, one also knows that persons may have more than one account, and that there is a small amount of the population that remains unbanked. Our ability to quantify that, unfortunately, we had set to do surveys in March, and the COVID-19 has sort of created problems with that. We did an online survey, but we don't think the online survey would have reached the unbanked. I think we saw from the online survey something like 6% or less who said that either by choice or by other reasons, they do not have a bank account with a commercial bank or a credit union. So we don't have those numbers except anecdotally. Okay. Our plan is still to go back in when we can, when social distancing, or what I like to call physical distancing, we still want to be sociable, is no longer an issue, that we can still do this. So what we focus on is the cost to access banking services, because this also plays to whether you're underbanked or unbanked. The cost, as well as some of the regulatory thresholds. You know, you need 2 pieces of ID, proof of address by bills, all of these things. So those are the things that we are looking at. But we do not have a firm hold on the quantitative aspects of who is unbanked. What we do have en masse is the cost that tells us that this means that most of us are underbanked, in that we may have a bank account, but we don't use the other services because of the cost. So I may have a bank account, but I don't use internet banking because there's a cost to move money from my account to somebody's account in the same bank. And then there's the lack of interoperability, in that the cost to move it from my bank to another bank is even more. So the underbanked is a significant challenge and a significant friction to drive us, to allow us to move forward more efficiently and competitively. The issue of having the agencies as part of our design is to be able to tap into that and be able to see by who signs up. What profile do these persons have, and be able to also get some data on the unbanked. That's part of what we are looking at.
Great. Okay, and tell us about some education initiatives to get the customers ready.
So we are currently finalizing with our consulting team on the education. We are seeing the education as a partnership between us and financial institutions and agencies, so that the message comes from multiple sources in terms of education on cybersecurity, education on financial management, education on the technology platform and how you use it. We have been doing some soft education via our website, doing monthly newsletters, doing FAQs, and also going out and talking on programs like these, programs on interviews, programs talking to community groups. But the real mass deployment of our education strategy will happen in a few weeks before we go live in a very deep penetration aspect of what we are doing and our target. We recognize, however, that this is a pilot, and we have limited, because it's a pilot, part of how you do a pilot is to have boundaries. So it's not a pilot where everyone will be part of, because you want to keep the pilot manageable, and you also want to learn from it before you go en masse. And so it's that balance of having enough people in the pilot while not having everyone, which then brings it more difficult to control and to learn from, in terms of being able to engage the participants directly and get their perspective throughout the pilot.
Okay, I have a question from Khalil. Do you see collaboration with non-banking payment systems like SurePay?
Currently, we are looking at what we can do with our fintech community. The ability for them to do basic KYC is a must. And so we have started to engage one fintech company just to look at the modalities before we go further of how we can do. The central bank has been supportive of fintech, not just from the central bank participating in it, but we are now, as part of our payment system modernization, looking to what rules, how do we bring these pioneers, these fintech pioneers, into a regulatory framework that that speaks to their development. Currently, many of them have to go under like the Money Services Act, and that has certain thresholds which will be prohibitive to them moving forward in a very competitive manner. And so we are looking all of these issues so that when we have a new architecture, it takes in the consideration of their development and their success, as well as their development. So there's a nurturing element of that that has to be undertaken as well.
Okay, so I have a follow-up question from Richard Ying. So just to clarify, the item currency in circulation will now have two types. So he talks about the hard currency and digital currency. Is the pilot tackling retail, consumer retail only, or is it tackling both? Sybil?
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
Currency in circulation for us will be all forms of EC currency, whether they are physical notes and coins, balances, or now digital currency. So it will embrace, it's sovereign currency. So whatever form it takes, it will be part of the mix.
Okay, great. So in countries like Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago, where they have a mobile wallet, there has been a significant increase in the use of electronic money. However, given the challenges with harmonization or cooperation in the region, what is the realistic expectation of success? And this is from Justin.
That's great. I think the statement that every journey begins with the first step,
Yes,
is really reflects what we are doing. This is the first step, and currently the EC currency is only legal tender in our 8-member countries. What the question seems to be guiding towards is the whole issue of interoperability with CARICOM-wide currency. And that is something which the region has been tackling for some time in terms of how do we look at different currency regimes. Some are fixed, some are floating, some are somewhere in between, managed floats. How do we do that? And so this question is not limited to the issue of digitalization of the sovereign. It's really, once one can have a modality to address this, then it obtains. Because when we're talking about currency interoperability, we are not shipping hard currency out. It's really true balances. It's really books, electronic currency we're talking about. And those modalities are being discussed at the level of CARICOM, at the level of the government of the region. And so those are things that once they happen, it's just a matter of making sure that the technology stack that everyone is developing on their sovereign currency facilitates interoperability. Currently, one has to recognize as well that when you're talking about interoperability, you're talking about sovereign to sovereign. So if someone comes out with e-money, that is different because central banks only hold sovereign currency. We do not hold private money. And so, of course, this does not mean that we are not supportive of an ecosystem that has both sovereign and private. You need both. It's just a matter of the interoperability from what central banks holds as the authorized currency as part of its holdings.
Okay, so let me take a question now on telcos. What is your perspective on telcos, telecommunication companies, leading mobile money platforms, and what models have been explored in relation to this?
The issue, and we're engaging telecommunications as part of this. They play an important role, a critical role. You can't have the digital transformation without having the driver of that transformation, which is the road on which the digital economy is going to move. And that is the telecommunications, that is the technology. We envisage that this is a platform and institutions would have certain governance that they have to abide by, but they will be able to put out their own digital wallets. And this is where the ecosystem development, the competition that we discussed as part of the modernization of the payment system. You want a payment system that really drives competition for different payment instruments and different services. So all that needs to happen is that the APIs facilitate that persons are able to leverage the platform to develop their own products and services. So the telcos might decide, listen, I want to be a wallet service provider. And what I do is I define what niche or what my wallet will afford. It might be more than just basic giving persons a digital app that they can transact in. There may be other things that the telcos can really have that harmonious marriage with and have a niche offering that meets someone's needs, and that their value proposition allows for that. And that is what we're seeing. That is what we want, that we provide a platform and we make sure that persons can leverage the APIs to create new products and services to drive, as we said, the transformation. And the transformation can only come if you have a dynamic ecosystem with multiple players offering multiple services to various niche customers.
Okay, how do you see digital cash influencing merchant trading accounts, and especially for small and medium-sized businesses?
I see it as transformational. I see it from a security standpoint. Many of us, we lament when we hear about businesses being attacked. We lament when we hear, I still recall, and I still, every time I drive around and I pass a pizza place where a young entrepreneur lost his life because persons attacked him for money. And so the issue of what is the transformational aspect of this is that if I, as a young entrepreneur, no longer have to fear for my physical safety, I then start to see the world through a different lens, a lens of potential, a lens of possibility. If I, as a young entrepreneur, no longer have to think about the cost prohibition to have a credit card infrastructure, I can stay in my house. I don't have to have any special fancy store outlets. I can just use the power of my imagination and my skills to create a business, engage persons, and sell my services and get paid. That is the transformation. That's what the governor speaks about when he says, imagine our young people employed and not just striving, but thriving. I think that is what that is what is driving us as a central bank to be one of the first movers in this digital central bank digital currency, but to see it as a catalyst for other persons to be able to chart their way forward.
Great. And I think it's truly transformational. We shared a slight joke this morning. In Trinidad, we have street food, we have doubles. And in St. Lucia and Barbados and some of the other countries, we have fish fry. And if you can go to a fish fry and pay with your mobile phone, the vendor is once a vendor has the app, the vendor now does not have as much cash, and you don't have to walk around with so many like cash on your hands. So it is truly revolutionary for small businesses. Sybil, closing thoughts on where you see the future of digital payment, not only in the EC countries, but in the Caribbean.
I think digital we recognize that digital is here. It's
Yes.
just of us. I mean, we tend to, right now, everyone chats on WhatsApp. Everyone, you know, we no longer see a phone. I think some of the younger persons don't even know what a phone looks like in terms of those analog phones that you have in your house. And, you know, they don't know that, because for them, the existence is, we use this tool, we move around digitally, now we have these virtual concerts. We're doing so many, we have virtual classrooms. We now have to look at virtual healthcare, virtual government. Even now, on the curfews that we have for those countries going through elections, there's a new modality of engaging the populace in virtual town hall meetings. And so it's not a matter of where we see digital. Digital is here. Now we can use it just to be a consumer, or we can use it to be a producer. And that's the distinction. If we are only consuming digital, but we are not producing digital, then we are not making a value added move towards addressing our bottom line, our advancement in the world. I think the OECS is one of the highest consumers on the cable and wireless for phone usage and phone talk. And one thing we do well in the Caribbean is talk. We have to use that talk to move it from talking for talking sake and talking for business creation, talking for upward mobility of what we have as our platform to engage the world. And so that's where, you know, we say in a crisis, in a challenge, you can either shrink with the weight of the pressure, or you can expand to bear it on your shoulders and move ahead. And I think the issue is we are all being called now to be Davids. If I can leverage, you know, one of these things that the crisis has done is sent us to our Bibles. Huh? So I'm reading the Bible more now than ever before. And so we have to leverage the power of David against Goliath. And it's one thing that we say in the Caribbean, we tall, but we small, but we talawa. It is not just a Jamaican saying, it is really a Caribbean saying, and we have different ways of saying it. But you put a Caribbean person anywhere internationally, and they not just strive, but they thrive. And so we want us to use that same gumption, that same can-do-it attitude right here with the digital world. Not just be consumers, sending our monies out, but using the digital to get money in, getting our services to the rest of the world. That's really our challenge. Are we going to use digital to transform our situation, or are we going to let digital transform us to the benefit of others and not to ourselves? That's really the question, to be or not to be. And I hope that we will be that digital pioneer, that digital success that we can.
I think that we will be. And Sybil, I'm getting so emotional just listening to you talk about this, because digitalization of the Caribbean region is something that CANTO has been passionate about. Every platform, every seminar, every training, every conference we talk, we have always kept a space for digitalization. So I myself hope, I want to wish you all the best on this project. I want to wish you so much success that this project will be used as a benchmark, as a best practice for the other countries of the region to accept it and to learn from it and to get on with their digitalization agenda. I think COVID has done that for us. It has put all of us on the same page. All of us has one thing on our minds now, digitalization. So this project has come at a time when the region is ready, the environment is ready to embrace and develop the technology. And of course, CANTO is committed to this. We are running out of time and I have some duties to perform. So thank you so much, Sybil, and thank you attendees for attending this show. We have two quick announcements. The next webinar will be on Tuesday, the 2nd of June at 10 a.m. We will talk to Carlos Bosch, Head of Technology for North America, GSMA, on understanding 5G technologies and debunking some common misconceptions. And on Thursday, the 4th of June, we will talk to Michael Weening, Executive Vice President of Global Operations at Calix, and he will talk about best practices for operating in the new abnormal. So mark your calendars, stay home, stay safe, and stay connected with CANTO Conversations. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Theresa. Thank you, Canto. It's a pleasure.